I think we have time for one more question now, if the panellists will agree to keep their answers brief. Is Professor Phil Stevens from the School of Dentistry here?
Yeah, just here.
Thank you.
Following years of higher education expansion, are we in fact producing too many graduates with the wrong skills or attributes for the UK worldwide business marketplace?
Thank you very much. Yeah. David, too many graduates?
Too many dentists.
Biting comment there.
Don't like dentists. There's a lot of different bits to that question, I think. There's the volume bit and then there's the skills and attributes bit. To do with the volume bit, I never hear business people complain that there's insufficient graduates out there, with one exception, and that is the general area of what we call STEM skills: science, technology, engineering, maths. Comments around that have obviously eased a bit in the last year or two, but I would expect them to come back, and they'll come back harder if we get the cap wrong on non-EU migrants. So, problem there with numbers. I think it's starting to change. I think it's starting to change because government policy, exhortation, business getting a bit better at communicating their needs, students getting a bit better at looking at outcomes and employability issues. But I don't, apart from that, hear businesses complain that there are too few graduates out there. I'm not sure what the right number of graduates is. Skills and attributes. Well, I've made the comment about science and engineering. I think there's a wider comment which is kind of more generally felt around sort of wider employability attributes of graduates. We do, God, the CVI does surveys on everything. We do surveys on this on a fairly regular basis, and headline comes out, employers say too many graduate earlier don't have employability skills. Actually, it's kind of like a largish minority. Say 30-40% of employers are saying this, and that actually can be sorted. And it's quite interesting. Some universities, I think, sort this out quite well. I can remember putting together a bunch of MDs and HR directors for dinner one night to meet with somebody doing another review of HE in Wales, and somebody mentioned Bath University, and all of a sudden around the table everybody said, "Oh yeah, we've had one or two from Bath. They're really good." If you look at Bath, I think they put the vast majority of their undergraduates out for at least a year, or a significant chunk of a year, with business on placements, and they do it across all disciplines, not just business studies and not just the science and engineering ones. So there are things you can do. I don't like the debate about 50% is too much, or we should artificially restrict numbers going to university. I think it's much more about whether individuals are ready for it, and increasingly going forward, it's going to be about is there really a graduate premium? What's it worth? Does it justify the fees? You're going to see individuals or their parents acting much more as consumers, particularly as the price goes up. So I think it's a few comments that maybe is helpful.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
I'm not brief. I'm sorry.
Never mind. Graham, too many graduates, too few graduates, and the right kind or the wrong kind?
Well, as a very brief answer, I would say yes to this question. I think
too many.
Yes to too many, yeah. And yes to the wrong skills in certain cases. I think the expansion of higher education, coupled with, as ever with government, the lack of sufficient resources to do it properly, has led to a sizable, I would agree with David, it's a minority, but a sizable minority of the 18-year-olds over the last perhaps 10, 15 years being very badly advised in their schools, and for all the advice that's come down to them as to where they should pursue their education. Too many people have been pushed, and I would say pushed, from the experience of my own kids into university when it wasn't necessarily the appropriate thing for them, or the course they were going to do wasn't necessarily the appropriate course. A lot of kids have gone to universities just as they would have done for the last 30 or 40 years, got perfectly good degrees and perfectly good jobs at the end of it. But too many, in my opinion, have gone when it wasn't the appropriate thing for them to do. The company I used to work for used to employ in the 1980s a large number of people straight from school, good A-levels, not good enough to go to university or didn't want to go to university, went into an industry that would give them training, day release, put them through training up to degree level if they had the skills, while they were working, while they were learning, while they were earning decent money. That cohort of 18-year-olds simply does not exist anymore because they all get pushed into some form of higher education. And too many of them, in my opinion, come out with a degree which doesn't give them any advantage in terms of employment, and £15,000 worth of debt round their neck. And I think there's a disappointingly large number of kids that we've failed as a society, in my opinion.
Do you think higher fees will sort that out?
I think Lord Brown is attempting to address some of the issues that the current funding structures have caused. Whether it will, my inclination is to think that it probably will, because I think it will force people to think a little bit more carefully about their future directions than maybe they have up to now.
Okay, thank you. So, Paul, do you think there's too many graduates coming out, too few graduates? Do they have the right skills?
No, I don't think there are too many. I think it's interesting. I think Cardiff itself, I think it has one of the highest numbers of students per capita, I think, of any of the UK core cities. I think the key question is how we harness the skills of graduates within the local economy, and that raises major issues about how we increase the number of knowledge-intensive industries within the local economy that can give those graduates a meaningful career. And if you're looking at the whole structure of the local economy, we were saying earlier that Cardiff has done relatively well over the last decade or so. Where we haven't done particularly well is in relation to business startups. There are issues around enterprise, and there are real questions here about business infrastructure and how we support the business community in infrastructural terms going forward, so that we are creating a labour market which can really utilise the skills of large numbers of graduates. But I don't think the debate about numbers of graduates is necessarily a fruitful one.
Okay, thanks very much. Fruitful or not, Kevin, I'm going to ask you. Too many graduates, too few?
Well, I wouldn't presume to know the answer. I mean, I think the real issue is whether we admit young men and women, or older men and women for that matter, on the basis of ability, rather than simply ability to pay, which is what we're moving into now. So I wouldn't presume to say whether it's too many or too few. I think the underlying question is, have we got the right skill mix in our economy? And the answer to that is no. Quite simply because we've treated vocational skills as the Cinderella of the system. We've completely skewed the balance between academic skills and craft skills or vocational skills. And the sooner we get to some kind of parity of esteem between those two skill sets, the sooner we'll see young people making informed decisions which may not lead to university and may lead to more and better vocational skills in the economy. But I don't think it's a productive debate to say there are too many or we should have X percentage number of young people going to university.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're going to have to wrap up fairly soon, but I think we've had some interesting insights there. You saw the slide, or you gave the answer that different cultures was one of the barriers, the biggest barriers to collaboration, but it seems here at least we've got people from business public sector and academia, and we are engaging in a similar kind of culture, conversational culture at least. Hopefully there's more, if it doesn't sound too trite, more that could come out of this. So on that note, I'm going to hand back now to Howell. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much indeed. I think the first thing I want to do is to invite you all to join me in thanking the panellists and